see the evidence in case number 80-943-CFA. This was probably one of the bigger cases I worked on. It made national news.
On Friday, March 28, 1980, there's a 911 call and police respond to the Bradfords' home in Melbourne. And they are greeted at the door by Priscilla Bradford, Dr. Bradford's wife. She has blood on her. She says, I had to do it, I had to do it. There's a couple of other women standing there who worked for Mrs. Bradford, Janice Gould, Joyce Cummings. Also there is Mrs. Bradford's daughter, Eden, who's 14. They say they were out at the pool. They hear Mrs. Bradford screaming, help me, help me. Dr. Bradford has this metal bottle capper in his hand and has already hit Mrs. Bradford with it. And they jump on him and attack him and end up killing him to save her. Just the day before, Mrs. Bradford had gone into the police department covered with bruises and had filed a sworn statement and affidavit for domestic battery against her husband. It seemed like a pretty straightforward case. Of course, within a few days, the story changed dramatically. Dr. Bradford was an eye doctor. When he had married Priscilla, they opened up an optical lab. They had a thriving business. He was seeing patients. She ran the lab itself, although really the whole business was Dr. Bradford. They were in the middle of a pretty bitter divorce. Dr. Bradford, in the weeks before his death, was saying again and again that he feared that his wife was going to kill him. About a month before his death, we learned that at 5 a.m. he goes into a budget rental car and writes his wife out of the will. Priscilla Bradford wasn't aware she's been written out of the will. He wants to make it clear that his wife, Priscilla, not get the interest in his eye doctor business. Priscilla clearly was concerned about in the divorce that she would be left with nothing.
Greed is a big motivator. It's one of the biggest motivators for murder. As an investigator, you have to look at all that and decipher what the motive was.
I think the police were running down every lead and unraveling pretty quickly that this was a more complicated story than a simple battered spouse fighting back against her accuser. At the scene of the crime, Dr. Bradford is laying in the dining room at this point with his head crushed from being beaten so much with a cast iron skillet. There are 7 pieces he's been hit so much.
You gotta hit him pretty hard to break the bottom of the skillet out.
That's how vicious this attack was.
If it was self-defense, it'd be one-on-one maybe, but the 3 of them were in there and, continued to beat him until he was dead. If the physical evidence doesn't match what the witnesses are saying, then you got a problem with that witness. Priscilla Bradford was worried for her life, and she would claim that her husband was trying to attack her. And she looked for assistance from the 2 women, and they would try to restrain him instead of trying to kill him. They would call the police before he was dead. And you get a sixth sense of when people are trying to lie about something. You try to break one. You try to get one to flip. And I think that's where the daughter came in.
Eden, the stepdaughter, 14, tells the police all of the planning and all of the staging that went on in this murder. This has been well planned and calculated.
They caught him coming through the door and attacked him without him being aware of it and beat him.
As the story unravels, we learn that no, the women are beating Dr. Bradford. And at one point, Priscilla goes into her 14-year-old stepdaughter and says, "He won't die, just hit him," and gives her the bottle capper to go hit Dr. Bradford. And at the end, before they call police, they wipe all of his blood off of it, and they put it in his hand so that supposedly his fingerprints are on it to back up the story that he originally had threatened them with the bottle capper. There is no concrete evidence that he ever hit her. The day before, she has filed an affidavit with the police. Mrs. Bradford is asking her two accomplices, "Punch me, punch me." They just had very calmly plotted and carried out the murder. Eden said this group of women have been plotting for 4 to 6 weeks through 3, 4, 5 scenarios on how to kill this doctor. One of them did say all we wanted was an all-female lab. I think it was called a feminist crime. They talked about cutting his brake line. That didn't work out. They tried to poison him in his orange juice. That didn't work out. What really stands out in this one, in my mind, is 3 women who don't really come from a violent background. And for the 3 of them to be hiding and laying in wait for this doctor to come home, and each of them have some type of weapon in their hand and attack him, that's crazy.